In the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord, in Amen we trust as the Republic of Mentellect, the true 144,000, the bright race that's being gathered in this day and time going forward into the future. Good evening. I am your host, the intellectual ꜰᴜᴜ and this is Mentellect Radio, and tonight we're going to be discussing the real founding fathers and Native Americans. Contrary to, I was inspired to do this because of the we ain't African little movement that's going on YouTube, where you got good brothers up there and some sisters who pushing the message and out that we didn't come from Africa, our people here in this side of the world, that we didn't come from Africa, right? Like your black studies and your black history and Pan-African people are saying in the class to the torch that the black history classes are teaching us in these public school systems that we came over here, the so-called black people came here into the shores of America, North America, in chains as slaves. And that is simply not true. They brought some slaves over here, but the slave trade wasn't really as big as you think it is, as people are led to believe. Same way the Holocaust wasn't as extensive, and not them as as they reported many Jews got killed. The numbers get hiked up ever so often, every 4 to 5, maybe 6 years, just like the number of so-called slaves that got brought here into the shores of America get hiked up. So this is where they try to say that black people come from Africa, from a totally different place, and were brought here into the shores of North America through bondage. But the story also picks up where along with the slave story, people are saying that the so-called Native Americans, the so-called Indians, were the founding fathers of America. They were the first ones here before the white man, right? And it never sat right with me totally, because I asked myself, what are these so-called Indians? What are the Indians? Because I only know of a few races, a few standout races on the planet. I only know of a few standout races. That is your so-called black race, your so-called white or Caucasians, your so-called East Indians, and your so-called Asians. Right? Your Asians are comprised of your Chinese, Japanese, Korean, all that. That's your Asians, and your East Indians are, your Asiatic, the black, those real dark-skinned people with straight hair. And then you got your so-called black, or what they call African, whatever the case may be. And then you got your Caucasians, Europeans, whatever. So where do the so-called Indians or Native Americans, where do they fit into this? These four races? Where do they fit in? I was always trying to find, where do they fit in? Where do they originate? Because America is not a place of true origin. People come into America, right? Nobody originates in America. People come from other places to America, and it's still like that today. So people come here. Where did the so-called Indians come from? You have to ask yourself that. And upon asking myself that, I have to ask myself, where did the word Indian come from? This is important to question, because you got a lot of so-called black people who are getting out of the whole African thing and the whole slavery thing, and rightfully so. But they're going into another slave bag, another trick bag, by calling themselves Indians, because the terminology Indian comes from the white man, right? Just like the terminology African comes from the white man. So when you're saying, oh, I'm not African, I'm Indian, you got to be careful of that. Because that comes from Columbus, when they thought that they landed in India, and they started calling the people Indians. And over time, the generations that came after started referring to themselves as Indians. They started referring to themselves as North American Indians. But did these people come from India? No. The so-called Native Americans are Asian. They're Asiatic people from Siberia. They crossed the Bering Straits over here as Chinese, Asians, Chinese. They have the same genotype and phenotype. If you trace back to so-called Native Americans or Indians, they will your geneticists will trace them right back to the Asian people, right? They will trace them right back to the Asians, right? Those people are Asian and Caucasian mixed, your so-called Indians. And when they came over here to America under a man named Hu Shin, an Asian, in the 4th century, right? They found our people here as the Olmecs. They found our people here as the Olmecs. Our people were here 16,000 years before anybody. Even Dr. Claude Anderson said that so-called black people were here 16,000 years before everybody else, before the white man, before the so-called Indians or Asians came over here and mixed with our people, right? Which is where they get the dark skin from, which is where they get the feathers and the teepees that look like, if you look at them, they look like small miniature pyramids, which is where they get the tribal customs and things like that, and the languages from. That comes from our people. That comes from them interbreeding and intermixing with our people, and they took on our customs and traditions as the Olmecs. All the things you see that the so-called Native Americans are doing today, and they so-called teepees and they tribal things, that comes from the Olmecs. And a lot of those so-called Asians, when they came over here, a lot of them slaughtered some or plotted to kill off some of the black or the so-called black people, the Olmecs that were here. And if you look on a lot of their traditional totem poles and things like that, and their Indian tribal totem poles, you'll see this. Sometimes you'll still see the face of Olmecs there. You'll see it. Now, this history is not readily shared with our people because you know the white man is constantly hiding our history, our true history. He was the one that hid the fact that we were the real ancient Egyptians, the real ancient Kemites, and that we built the first governments, the first societies on the planet. And they still deny it to this day. They still deny it today with those broad noses, those broad faces, those broad lips. They're going to still deny it, even with all the DNA that was dug up, the genotype and the phenotype, even with the Greek philosophers who had firsthand accounts and encounters with the pharaohs and the ancient Kemetic or Egyptian people who said themselves that they were so-called black people. They said it themselves. They referred to them as so-called black people with woolly hair. But the Caucasians, they ignore all that, and they're going to just make all those people white because the white man doesn't want you to know that he's actually copying from your society the way to set up governmental structure, the way to set up political structure. They want you to believe everything come from the Greeks and the Romans, but where did they get it from? Where did the Greeks and Romans get their structuring system from of government and political structure? They got it from the ancient Kemites and the Egyptians because they came over there and learned from them in their universities. They get it from them. And they passed it on to the Caucasians, but the Caucasians went all the way back to Egypt, and they found the origin of all this stuff. And they found you at the beginning of that, but they don't want to tell you that. Just like now, they don't want to tell you that you are the real Native Americans. You are the true founding fathers, the Olmecs or the Mende people that put things in effect. And the people who are concealing this lies, not just the white man, but the people who are concealing this truth. I mean to say, not lie, but this truth. The people who are concealing it are your so-called Mexicans today and your so-called Indians. They're part of the lie. Your so-called Mexicans are claiming that the Olmecs are them. They're the Olmecs. This is what they're saying. They're claiming that they're the Olmecs and that we came over here through slavery. That black people got here through slavery. And don't ever get it twisted. Don't think the Mexicans are not racist, because they'll say this nonsense. They'll talk about they built all of those pyramid structures in South America and Mexico and in North America, that they're responsible for those civilizations before America and whatnot. They lying. They lying. You can go all on YouTube and see these people trying to dispute the fact that the Olmecs are so-called black people. You can go all online and see that. They're trying to so-called debunk it, even though you can clearly see that the Olmec women are shaped with big hips and big behinds, and but you know that's black women, wide faces, big lips, broad noses. Those are black women, so-called black women. The men with the broad faces and the thick lips and whatnot, and those eyes and whatnot, those are so-called black men. They look just like Muhammad Ali. Got one that look like Muhammad Ali, one that look like Baby or Birdman from Cash Money. It's a bunch of them. Joe Frazier. You see the descendants of the Olmecs right here. And we look like those people. We don't look like the Africans, or what you would call a typical African. We do, however, look like the Olmecs, the Mende people, who actually come from the East, the Middle East, out of Africa or east of Africa, or what they call in the Middle East, and into America. They don't want to share that history. Like I said, the Mexicans are racist. They're sitting up here trying to claim our history the same way the white man is trying to claim our history about ancient Egypt. He's saying that he was the ancient Egyptians. He's just going to lie, disregard everything that Herodotus, his so-called Greek scholars, Herodotus on them, said that they saw the ancient Kemites, the ancient Egyptians, and that they were so-called black people. But they just going, and these are people that got first-hand accounts who were there and saw these people. But they're just going to disregard it. You could look at the Sphinx, you could look at the statues of King Tut, you can see those are clearly so-called black people. You can see that. But they're going to still deny it. They don't care. They're going to still make movies, $1 million movies, to keep this lie going, to perpetuate this lie. They're going to keep on doing it. Just like they'll eventually make a movie about the Olmecs, and they'll tell you that the Olmecs were Mexicans or Caucasians. They'll get some Caucasian-looking Mexicans and say that they was the real Olmecs. They are not going to tell you the truth, even though our people left all this evidence here of who they were. They're not trying to tell you the truth. And now we aiding in the lie too, because now we sitting up here calling ourselves Indians. We sitting up here calling ourselves Indians, and we totally bypassing the whole Olmec Mende, or as Dr. Claude Anderson said, the Folsom people. We totally bypassing our connection with those people. And we run into the so-called Indians putting feathers in our hair. You got Negroes putting feathers in their hair, trying to dress like them so-called Indians on the reservation, because you want to run away from being African, because y'all wasn't really feeling the whole African tribal thing, but you more or less started feeling the whole Native American, thing, because they didn't look as so-called black. Their hair was a little longer, and, they had dark skin, so you saw that as being prettier. So a lot of y'all ran toward the so-called Native Americans. And they also don't have the connotation of slave on them. They don't have that slave history, the so-called Indians. They don't have that slave history. They paint the so-called Indians as warriors and fighters for their liberation, and they paint you as slaves. No, that's not totally true, because you had a lot of so-called slave uprisings. You had a lot of black people fighting and whatnot, and fighting Caucasians and stuff like that back then, but they don't want to tell you about that. Just like they bury that history, they're going to bury the history about the Olmecs, the Mende people. They're going to bury that history about these first society builders, those men who were walking around with crowns on their heads or helmets on their heads, right? That they had a society here, that they were building on a huge level here. Same way the Egyptians built. That's how you know it's the same people that was influenced by. You see the level on which they build. You know it's the same people. The structures may be a little different because of where they move to and how they move. The structures may be a little different, but this is how you know we're not Africans. You look at how the Egyptians built, their level of building, and you look at how the Olmecs built. And you look at the helmets and the headdress and the headgear and things like that, you could tell that they're the same people. You look at the so-called tribal Africans, and you see it's not the same people. They don't build on that level. They don't. And I brought this out before. They don't build on that level. The so-called Native Americans didn't really build on that level neither. They didn't build on that level. They had their little teepees. I mean, they were big and stuff like that, and they had their little, things, but they didn't really build on that level. So that's how, and the so-called Mexicans, the Mexicans are really also Asians as well, who mixed in with our people. That all came from the mix with our people. The so-called Mexicans are nothing but Asians that mixed in with our people, the Olmecs. Same way the so-called Asians mixed in with our people to get the so-called Native Americans. Because they can all trace their genotype and phenotype. The Mexicans trace it back to the Asians, just like the so-called Native American. But they don't. They try not to bring that out as much because then you're going to ask yourself, well, if they Asian and the so-called Mexicans are actually Asian, or they have an Asiatic connection to the Chinese and the Japanese and all those people, then you're going to say, well, what about the Olmecs? You're going to start thinking, what about the Olmecs with those broad faces and those thick lips and those broad noses and those broad faces? You're going to start asking the question. They damn sure don't like no Mexicans. Now, if you got Mexicans like this, you got so-called black Mexicans in Mexico that they don't talk about. See, they always try to hide our people in every society. They try to hide our people. They try to act like it's no black Mexicans because they're always showing you those so-called Indian-looking or pale Mexicans. They don't want to show you the so-called black or the Nubian Mexicans. They don't want to show you that. But those Nubian Mexicans are the descendants of the Olmecs. They are the descendants of the Olmecs, just like you the descendants of the Olmecs. They don't want to show you that. They don't want that to be known because they got a lot invested in you being African. I told you that. The white man over here, they got a lot invested in you being African. They got a lot invested in that whole image of you being African, going right back to the beginning of when film started here in this country in the 20th century, in the early 1900s. As soon as they were able to start filming and making movies, they were showing you black people, so-called black people in Africa, as a bunch of slaves, as a bunch of damn savages, as a bunch of damn spear chuckers and spear throwers. This is what they were showing you. So they got a lot invested in that image of you being African. They ain't ready to give that up. They ain't ready to tell you, oh, you are the ancient Egyptians. Oh, you are the ancient Kemites. Oh, you are the ancient Olmec people. You are the Mende people. You are the first Native American, the first people here. You are the first people that built the societies and the governments. You are those first. They ain't ready to tell you that. They ain't trying to tell you that. Because then it changes the whole outlook and perspective you have on yourself. As long as you keep thinking that the white man did you a favor by bringing you over here from Africa in chains, and you was a damn savage, and that he taught you Christianity to help you, and enslavement wasn't bad, like that clown Ben, I forget what his name is, the Surgeon General guy, the guy who's going to be the Surgeon General, the guy was running for president. As long as because he went and said something stupid like that. Oh, you know, it wasn't so bad us being slaves here in America, because without slavery, we would have never got brought over here by the white man, and we would have never got Christianity. We would have been hanging out in Africa in the trees studying Islam. Some stupid nonsense. This clown said, yeah, he's a brain surgeon. I think it's Ben Carson. I think that's his name. Carson, yeah, Ben Carson. Thank you. That clown. And I used to look up to him too until he said something stupid like that. But I think he's going to be Donald Trump's Surgeon General. So that's what he got for saying stupid stuff like that. That's the reward he got for being a coon. That's the reward he got for being a Sambo and a coon. And he knows the history because he's an educated man. But he's not going to tell nobody. They're not going to tell nobody. They're not going to tell nobody that black people was already here. The so-called black man and black woman were already here before the white man, before the so-called Asians who came over here and mixed with us. They wasn't the first ones who attacked our people. The white man wasn't the first ones. It was the so-called Asians. They attacked the Olmecs. Some of them mixed in with our people, and some of them just straight up attacked our people, took their land. That's why the white man turned around and did the same thing to them. That's why when the white man came to them and convinced them not to help the so-called slaves, not to fight on the side of the so-called blacks, they was with it because they already had animosity for our people anyway. A lot of them thought they was better than our people, even though they got their whole culture from our people. Their whole culture here in America, they so-called Native American culture, they powwows and all that come from our people. But they ain't going to tell you that, though. They wasn't doing that over in no China nowhere or Asia or wherever them people come. They wasn't doing that. They learned that when they got here, and they start mixing in with our people. They took on our customs. You can see the ancient Nubians with feathers in their head. You can see the ancient Nubians with bows and arrows and feathers in their heads. But y'all ain't gonna say, "Oh, we the ancient Nubians. We the one," and put feathers in your head with feathered crowns and call yourself the ancient Nubians. You're not gonna do that. You'll call yourself Indians instead. You better off calling yourself Nubians if you're gonna do that. Hell, I'll refer to you as Nubians before I refer to you as Indians. I'll refer to you as Nubians before I refer to you as Africans. That's more right. That's why we set up the United Nubian site we did on Facebook. We set up the United Nubians because we still our ancestors and our descendants are still of Nubian descent, just as we are. Even though we use the word Mentelian, that's on a high level, but we still are of Nubian descent. So you better off using Nubians, Native American Nubians. You better off using that. You better off taking that identity and going forward with it than sitting up here trying to be some so-called Indian. Because, like I said, I had a so-called black woman come up in my class when I was explaining about the Mentelians and how we moved to another level in the bright race. She want to start talking about she Indian, and she want to start talking she a Native American and she Indian and she ain't no African. I said, well, I never said you was an African, but I also went as far as to say you're not Indian either, because that comes from the white man. And she wanted to damn near attack me because I said you're not Indian. Oh, you getting into semantics. No, I'm getting into the reality of it. Why is it semantics when you don't want to be referred to as African, but then when you want to go with the Indian thing, which is also not correct, then all of a sudden it's semantics. Why wasn't it semantics when they was calling you African? You wanted to get it correct and straight when they was calling you African because you didn't want to be linked to the whole African thing. But now when I say you ain't Indians neither, then all of a sudden you want to get angry. A lot of people want to get angry because y'all figured y'all settled into some sort of identity calling yourself Indians, but you haven't. Because those so-called Indians of today are mixed with white people, they mixed with Caucasian, and they still got that Asian. They don't like you neither. They don't like you neither. You can hang out on the reservation, the res, all you want. They don't like you there. They're not your people. They just like the damn white man. They'll call you a nigga in a heartbeat. They not your people. But you don't see that, though. That's how the white man was able to convince them to go against you. And, in fact, the white man allowed them to own slaves. The white man allowed them to own slaves. The white man told them, look, if you side with us and don't help the slaves, you'll have the status of a white person. You'll have the status of a white person. And you can own slaves, too. And a lot of them took them up on that. They took them up on letting them own our people. And they was the last ones that they didn't even want to give our people back. They wanted our people being slaves under them. You understand that? The so-called Indians, who y'all trying to cling on to their onto their false heritage. They can't even tell you where their language come from. They can't even tell you where their tribal names originate from. They can't tell you none of that. They can't trace themselves back to any of those four races I named. Well, they can trace themselves back to the Asian, but they don't want to do that. They can trace themselves back to the Asians because then the question starts to be, well, if you are of the Asiatic descent, if you are of Asiatic descent, if you are Asian like the Chinese, the Japanese, and all of them, then how come why are you claiming this culture? Where'd this culture come from? Because I guarantee you, if you go over to Japan, China, and all these other places, you're not going to find people with bows and arrows and feathers in their heads. So where did that culture come from? Where did that whole culture, the bows and the arrows and the Indian and the spears and the feathers and all that in the head come from? Where'd that come from? Answer: it came from us. It came from us. But y'all don't want to rep the Olmecs. For some strange reason, I keep saying this, for some strange reason, your Dr. Ben, all these people, all of them, they made sure they talked about Egypt. But for some strange reason, they never talked about the Olmecs like that. The only one who did it was Ivan Van Sertima. I wonder why it was that these people never talked about the Olmecs. Dr. Ben and them barely spoke on the Olmecs. From what I can remember, it was always about Egypt. Even these guys, Ashwa Kwesi, all he talked about is Egypt. Why? Yet there are pyramids here in America. I'm not saying disregard the ancient Kemetics, our Nubian ancestors in ancient Kemet, but what about our ancestors, our ancient ancestors in America, the Nubians in America. What about them? What about what they built here? Why does it seem like these chemitologists or whatever they call themselves, why does it seem like they just totally disregard our Nubian, Olmec, Mende ancestors over here? Why do they totally disregard them? And they built on the level. And a lot of them was over here around the same time as the Egyptians was building up their dynasties and things. They was over here building as well, separately. They was over here building as well and around the same time. Some of their pyramids are older than the pyramids in Egypt. Some of them are. But nobody talks about them. The Israelites totally ignore them. They'd rather side with this nonsense story about the so-called Native Americans being the first people over here. They'd rather side with them about this foolishness. So it's a lot of people aiding in the lie. It's a lot of people claiming or trying to claim our heritage. It's a lot of people trying to claim our heritage. And our people are falling for this nonsense. And they are going, and like I said, with the whole we Native Americans now. You just throw away your whole heritage as the Olmecs, as the Olmec Nubian people. You just throw that away. The Mende people, you just throw all that away. Why don't nobody ever talk about these people? They have never proved factually that the so-called Mexicans are linked to those Olmec people. They have never proven that. The Mexicans say that, and the only reason they're getting the Mexicans up to say that is because when so-called black people start claiming connection to the Olmecs and the Mende people, then they wanted to push the Mexicans up and say, oh, no, just say y'all are part of that. And all of a sudden, they come and talk about, oh, we the real Olmecs. We built all of those structures in South America and North America and Mexico. That's a damn lie. That's a lie. That is a lie. They want to tell you that the Mexicans, the black, so-called black Mexicans got there through slavery or wherever they said how they got there. That's a lie. That's a lie. Just like 100 million black people was brought here in chains. That's a damn lie. That is a lie. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're not going to tell you the truth. Truth of the matter is you had black people who were descendants here who were of the Mende people, of the Olmecs, and some of them had slaves from Africa. Some of them had slaves. Some of them had slaves from Africa. Because it wasn't a black thing. It was with them. These are people coming from another thing. And a lot of them looked at it, slavery, like an indentured servant type of thing at first, where, you know, oh, you want to come over here to America. I'm set up here in America, so you come over here, you work for me for this time, and then you get set up in what you're going to do. But the white man took it to a whole nother level and just pushed the whole slavery thing. He just straight up pushed the whole slavery thing. They figured after they fought, Washington fought for this country with Britain, they was like, they'd be damned if they're going to share this country with so-called black people, even though black people, the so-called black man, and them helped them win the war. Blacks was fighting in the Revolutionary War. They was not trying to share none of the American setup of the system with black people or Indians. So-called Indians. They decide they're going to take America for themselves. And like I said, you couldn't take all those people because, you know, it would take so much longer because you're talking about from Benjamin Banneker and all these other people. You know, where exactly did these people come from? You want to say they're of African descent? You want to claim they're of African descent? And these were very skilled people, whereas at the time when you didn't have the white man who wasn't even all that skilled in building things like that and math, they were very illiterate coming here. They emptied out the prisons of Europe and let these people on to America or sent them over to America. They emptied out the prisons of Europe. This is how most of your white people got here. This is how most of them got here. And a lot of your so-called Asians, they left out of their homeland and crossed the Bering Straits because they were escaping from the Caucasians. A lot of the Caucasians were going into their lands. And they came over and they started leaving in droves, and they found their way to America where they seen the so-called Olmec people. They saw the Olmecs. Even your so-called Mayan and all these other people and the Indians of this day, they said that they people didn't build none of that stuff. I was watching a documentary when they talked about the extensive pyramids and things like that, and the things that are in ruins. They was like that was already built when they came there. When they people, because they go by oral history and oral tradition. A lot of those so-called Indians, right? They said a lot of the stuff that, or the so-called Mexicans, they said a lot of the stuff that they get attributed to building what they said they didn't build. They said all that stuff was already there when they came. A lot of the pyramids and things like that was already there. But like I said, our people are not going to refer to themselves as Nubians in America or native Nubians of America. That's what we tried to start, and we're going to get that going, the native Nubians of America. We're going to still do that. As the Republican men like to pay homage to our ancestors, the native Nubians, because we are the native Nubians of America. Make no mistake about that. We are the native Nubians of America. We are the real Native Americans. America is our land. I said this before, the whole damn planet belongs to us. The whole planet belongs to us because we are the descendants of the Amen being who created everything here. So the whole planet belongs to us. We supposed to inherit the whole earth. A lot of you Negroes want to stay stuck in Africa. You want to stay stuck in Africa. You don't want to be the real native Nubians in America. You don't want to be the real native Nubians of America. You don't want to be that. You want to be Indians or you want to be Africans. Indians or Africans, things that don't have nothing to do with you. This is what you want to do. This is what you want to be. And because of that, a lot of our identity is gone. Let me take this call. 205.
What's going on, brother?
How you doing?
All right, man. Cool. Yeah, I was listening to your program, man. I just got an invitation to listen to your podcast, and I like the information that you're putting out. I just want to share something, a couple of things with you, so you can make stuff very simple. So when you bring up Nubians, and you got to look this up, one of the things that I think would be very important for the indigenous people of America to do is go back into the court records, especially on the East Coast. Go back into those court records and look up the terms that the people were called and what the people were suing the United States Corporation for. They weren't called Nubians. They were called, the reason they were called Indians and stuff like that, because the word Indi is the root word, and Indi could mean independent, which it did. Indi could mean they had their own cultures, they had their own social setups, they had their own monetary setups. So the foreigners that were coming from Europe were calling them Indies because they were just independent of it. And then they came in and swallowed them up. I think it'll be very important for the so-called African American, black, Negro, colored person to go back and look at the money. The money that when they first started issuing money in the South, it had the people who they call African American today, it had them on the money. So what happens is we start learning new words and we start calling ourselves these different things, and it puts us in a deeper hole. So what I would suggest to your listeners, especially, look up when so-called black men were getting into the federal government. They've been in the federal government since 1832. What were these brothers called? What were they called? And that will erase a whole lot of confusion with us. Because right now, the thing that's killing us is us. We're using terms and words that we have no idea what we're saying when we say black. And I think it's a sister out there named she's one of these sisters who's in one of these foreign ideologies. She talks about words. When we use words, we keep using the word black, black, black. Black means bleached. Black means bleak. So if we keep using those words, it puts us, our actions will be that word. So if we keep calling ourselves black, we will bleach ourselves out. We have to understand how they use these words against us, and we got to know this. We can't keep talking about what they did to us because we about wiped out, because we about out of here. And our arrogance, especially with the brothers, we won't even learn nothing new. If somebody brings something new to a brother, the brother will cuss him out, call him all kind of bullshit, and then keep on going with the bullshit. These words, that we use are wiping us out. So I would just suggest to people, just go back to the early 1800s and look and see, why are you on the money? Why are you on the money? If you were from Africa, does it seem like white boys would drag people 5,000 miles from their hometown and come over here and then put them on the money? And one more thing, and this is very important, especially for the so-called black man. Dude, we got to start thinking. Now, I know it's something, and you said this earlier, my brother, I know it's something that we don't do. We don't believe in thinking. We wait for that white boy to tell us what to do. You better start thinking, because we're in a situation now, it's ominous for us, brothers. We're in bad shape because we've been playing around too long. That's all I want to say, man. I appreciate your program, man. I appreciate the information you're putting it out. You're making people think, brother, and that's what I appreciate. So thank you.
Well, okay. All right, thank you. Okay. Well, I want to say this to the brother that called in. You can call back if you want to. I'll tell you why I use the terminology Indian. Nubian. I said Nubian would be better than Indian because, I don't know where you're coming from with this whole Indian. Indi was short for Indian and independent. Brother, I tried to ride with you on that, but no, I'm sorry. Indi or Indian is not the same thing, and they're not synonymous with each other. That is incorrect information. That is incorrect. Okay? That terminology, Indi, was a terminology that was used in the last millennium when it came to independent. The word Indian, the only reason they was referring to those people as Indian is because what's the name thought he went into India. Columbus thought he went into India over America. That sounds more plausible than they was referring to them as Indians because they was independent of Indi people. I'm like, come on, brother. I mean, I hear you, but hello? Hello? 205? 205? Okay. I don't hear anything. Okay. But the whole the Indian thing, we got to, stop with this and thinking people going to give reparations and going to court. Listen, the white man's not giving anything away, okay? We need to stop believing. I don't give a damn whether you call yourself Indian, Martian, Mexican, whatever you call yourself, Pan-African, it doesn't matter. My point from getting away from the whole African thing and the Indian thing is because they're incorrect terminologies that are given to our people. That's the reason why I said that. But Indian or Indi is not short for Indian. It is not. All right? It is not. We got to stop with this. I mean, I know brothers is well-meaning with this, and they trying to, they want to bring some knowledge out, but we can't stop making stuff up. Okay? I'm gonna try and take your call again, brother. I'm gonna try and take your call again. 205.
And this is what I mean. We have to be able to learn new stuff, brother. Over there.
Okay, but wait a minute. I understand you saying we got to learn new stuff, but we can't just start making stuff up. Indi is not short for Indian. It is not. That is incorrect. That is not why. That is not why. That's what you said. That is not why they called our people, called the so-called Indians or Indians. That is not why.
Sir.
That has nothing to do with it. And we are not. Let me just finish. I listen to y'all. Let me just say this. You got black people, so-called black people, and I said so-called because I don't subscribe to any of those titles of black. I don't subscribe to African. I damn sure don't subscribe to Indian. The reason why I said Nubian, because that has more of a connection to our people from the word new or nuba or noon coming from that part of the world where a lot of our people, the majority of our people came from in the eastern part of, or east of Africa, or what they call in the Middle East, and we came into America as a people who were society builders and architects and things of that nature. So this is where America bases its foundation through Freemasonry on our people in the east, who were the Nubian people, who were the Noon or the Nuba people. So this is why I refer to them as the Nubians. I say we'd be better off. We're not looking as far as looking for the white man to identify as Indian or some other terminology, because the white man's not cutting no black people no money loose. So they need to stop with this foolishness. I don't care what you calling yourself. I don't care what you titling yourself. He's not giving black people no money. Okay, we need to stop that. Okay, so we're just putting it out there. Nubian was more or less a terminology that would put us more in alignment with our people, because that was a terminology from the word new or noon or nuba people that came from us, and at least we could have something that came from us, by us, and through us, as opposed to African, as opposed to black, as opposed to Indian, which comes from the white man. That's why I use that.
So the term Indian. I said the term Indian is not short for Indies. That's where you get the term Indies. May I finish?
No, go ahead.
I'm saying back when that term came up, the were over there, what you call India was called Hindustan back there. It was called Bharat back then. The term wasn't even used on those people. They called the people over here West Indians. And I'm saying the term Indian, you can derive a whole lot of terms from that, like independent, Indies. They called them Indies because they had a whole independent way of doing things. I'm not saying they could call you monkey. I don't care what they call you. That's not what you are. So what do you call yourself? And you can go back to your families and find out where your families lived and what they did to find out who they were. I'm not going to get into you about what terms they called you. I'm trying to get you to see what you called yourself. That's why I said go back into those colonial records and look at the people who were here that were soon the United States Corporation. What were those people called? Now, we don't do that.
Hold on. Now, you said about the West Indian. Your West Indian, the term West Indian comes from the East Indians who went into the islands and whatnot, and are still in the islands, who mixed with the so-called black people there, which is where you get a lot of your coolies from. That term India comes from those East Indian people, or those people who you refer to as Hindus and things like that. That's where the terminology of Indi or Hindi or Hindu comes from. It comes from those people. The word Indi is not that's where it comes from. It is not. It has nothing to do with our people. And the word Indi is not. They did not call it Indi. Has nothing to do with Indian or independent.
So you're saying when the European came over here, the people that were here didn't have an independent way of doing things from the eastern side of the world.
Okay, so but that had nothing to do. But that didn't have nothing to do with calling them. No, okay, but that didn't have nothing to do with calling them Indians. Where are you getting that from?
No, I didn't say it did. You keep saying that. I said Indian. The terms that come out of Indians are independent. These are interchangeable terms that they use. They even use them today. Independent, Indies, the West Indies, West Indians. They were talking about the people on this hemisphere of the world, because as you know, all the people you just named, African, Indians, European, Asians, they come from the eastern hemisphere of the world. They were calling this side over here independent. And what I would suggest, I'm just making a suggestion, is that you just look at colonial records to tell you these people had a whole independent way of doing things. That's why they call them that. It's not saying that these people over here were Indians. I'm not saying that. Whatever language these people spoke, that's what they called themselves. We're just trying to use the terms that were used, what they use, because that's how we communicate with this English language. I'm not saying that these people call themselves Indians. I'm not saying that these people call themselves West Indians. I'm not saying that these people called them black, because they didn't. They didn't speak English language. If you go to French, it's another word. If you go to Spanish, it's another word. But since we're speaking English, these are the terms that they used. That's all I'm trying to get you to see.
I'm saying, I already see that, brother. But you mixing up things. You saying, I said the white man called it. Hold on, brother. You saying that the word independent comes from Indian? Come on, brother. Stop it. Independent does not come from there. Hold on, wait a minute, brother. Whoa, brother. You making that correlation? You trying to say Indy comes from Indian and all that? It does not. And come on, you got to stop it. Okay, as far as the word Indian goes, the white man, the white man thought that they were in India when they got here. They called those people Indians. They called them Indians. And the white and the so-called Native American Indians. Hold on, the so-called Native American Indians, as they call themselves today, got that terminology from the white man, calling themselves Native Americans or Indians. That comes from the white man. Okay, it didn't come from. I never said they called themselves that.
Native Americans.
But the word Indian.
Who are the Native Americans? Who are the Native Americans?
The Native Americans are the Olmec Mende people, the first people here, the so-called black people. They're the first people.
No, sir. No, sir.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Native Americans. Okay, I'll give you an example so you can see it, because I'm telling you and you're not seeing it. Have you ever heard of a term called the nativity scene?
Yeah, I heard of a nativity scene.
The nativity scene is what?
I said I heard of the nativity scene. I'm not. They had a bunch of nativity scene. They had one with Jesus. They had one with Jesus and Mary. They had a bunch of nativity scenes. These are supposed to be points in history where they showing how things came about.
Okay. Now, was Jesus from Bethlehem, or was he born in Bethlehem?
There is no Jesus, brother. There is no Jesus Christ.
Brother, I understand that. It's all faith. I understand. This Bible is like the 13th, 14th Bible. I'm understanding that. But I'm just trying to get you to see something. Was Jesus born in Bethlehem, or was he indigenous to Bethlehem?
According to the story, he was born in Bethlehem, according to the story from what I remember.
That's all native means, born here. Mexican women come up through California every day to have a native-born baby. They're called Native Americans. Asian women fly over here every day from China to have a Native American. All native means is born here. We keep looking at it like it means that we the first people here. It doesn't mean that. And, brother, that's all I'm trying to get you to see. The words that are used later for what they say, it don't mean what they say. Native means born here. It don't mean you indigenous. That's who those people up in. You got all these casinos and stuff open. They're native. They're not you. You're pretending like that they are, because you are African. You are Hebrew Israelite. You are more. So as long as you somebody else, they can come in and be you. And they use that with the term Native American. So all I'm trying to get you to see, bro, I won't argue. You are not my problem, ever. I'm just trying to get you to see that the terms that they use, we get caught up in their terms and try to use the terms that they make up for us, and we won't go. We'll keep walking backwards if we keep doing that.
I have not, from this time I started, not used any of their terminologies. That's why I don't use Indian. That's why I don't use African. That's why I don't use Moor. That's why I don't use black or Negro. And I said, if you're going to use a terminology, you could use the word Nubian, because at least that is more linked to our people than anything. But listen, brother, thank you for calling in. Thank you. All right. Take another call. 718.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, that was another brother from the Ain't African name, believe it or not. And actually in my inbox, he left me, I think, his number. He said if we could chat or something, but because I think they doing another broadcast over there at the same time or something. But yeah, I was just listening to the conversation, man. You know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, like I was saying like I was saying, the term Indian is, like I was saying, and calling, like I said, a lot of those people who are getting away from the African thing, they think they're doing something by calling themselves Indian or trying to attach themselves to the Indians. And again, that's a terminology that comes from the white man. The white man is not going to recognize no black people as Indians, and they're not going to get any money from it. I don't care how much they go to court for it. I don't care what they call themselves, Moors, Indians, African. You're not getting any money from it. So they need to stop that walking around with feathers in their head and trying to get with them tribes, so-called Indian tribes. Those are a bunch of Asians and Caucasians, and the white man has more of a connection with them people than you do. The white man has more of a connection with the so-called Indians than the so-called black people do. So you better start grabbing on, if anything, grab onto your Olmec and Mende and people as those Nubian tribes of people. You're better off doing that than trying to go with this Indian nonsense.
Yeah, I think some people a lot of people's getting caught up in the words, because, I mean, he's right about the money thing, though. A lot of people was on the money, like the South and Alabama and stuff like that.
Yeah, because those were the Olmecs.
That's because that was the
Olmecs. That was because of the Olmecs and the Nubian. They know about the Olmecs and the Mende people and the Folsom people, like Dr. Claude Anderson talked about, going back to Florida and all that. Our people was all over America, man. Right. They know about all that, but they wasn't going around calling themselves no Indians.
But actually, that was one of the status on the birth. Well, they probably changed. You know how many times they changed our name, but it's just a lot of confusion because a lot of people, grandparents, they speak to them. They say, well, they was Cherokee, this, that. But I think that was just a label that was given to them.
They need. See, this is the problem. Nobody ever says, well, what language is this Cherokee and where does it come from? Nobody ever says that.
Right.
Exactly. That's how you know it's a bunch of BS. Nobody ever says, well, where does Cherokee come from? Where is the origin of the language Cherokee come? Where do the so-called Indians come from? Nobody touches on that. The people who call themselves Indians, where do they come from?
No, you know what I see, though? I think certain people that's trying to find out who they are and they not looking at the African thing, that's that's probably part of the trace back they find to, because a lot of people, if they speak to their grandparents and grandparents, most of them would tell them that, well, I belong to this tribe, that tribe. So it's like a piece of missing the puzzle, but it's just using the wrong term. But they trying to find out like who they are, because a lot of great grandparents would say someone out of line, well, your great grandfather was this Indian. You know, I mean, it's a lot here, especially in the South.
Well, just because some black people along the line got mixed in with the so-called Indians, some of our people, that been going on since the beginning of, when those Asians came over here and saw the Olmec Mende people here. That's when they mixed in. But don't ever think that you Indian, because that's a terminology that the white man gave those people once they mixed in, those mixed race people who were Asian and black mixed. That's where your so-called Native Americans come from, or your so-called Indians come from. They are not our people, okay? And we are not Indians.
Right.
They need to stop that. All of that, like I said, you go back and look at the Mende people. If you want to know where your people come from, look at Muhammad Ali, look at George Foreman, look at Baby Birdman and all them, and look at the Olmecs. That's your answer of where the so-called our people really come from and who they descend from. So they need to stop looking at these Indians and talking about we like those. We ain't no Indians. Like I said, all you got to do is look at the Olmecs. Everybody want to bypass the Olmecs. Everybody want to bypass the Mende people and whatnot as the first founders of what you're calling America today. But they are the founders of America today. That's why the Mexicans and them trying to claim that heritage. They trying to claim it.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Yep. I'm gonna let you get back to the show, man. All right, Menzies.
All right, bro. Menzies. All right, take another call. 323.
Hey, what's going on, bro?
What's going on?
All right, man, I've been listening, and I don't understand why so many of us want to attach ourselves to this society, man, when clearly it's like they don't even have a name for us. Every time I look into history, they always trying to throw a name that used to belong to them and put it on us. If anybody has created something new or something just for us, it would have been you. It would be you. You're the only one who just created a name for us that we could take, regardless of the disagreements, and just run with it. I'm gonna tell people to, yeah, really, man. I'm gonna tell people to refer to go to YouTube and look at the St. Mary's of the Good Wind. It's like a 30-second video, and they can see in that painting who the people were that Columbus took back with him. And it's not the people that's on the reservation. It's not them. Clearly, they are taking on our story and running with it.
Yeah.
And I also want to say, go ahead.
No, I was telling these people with this Indian thing, and black people going up to these so-called black people going to these reservations and trying to act like these so-called Indians. They not your people, man. They just as racist as the whites. Like I said, the white man always had a deal going with them. That's why he allowed them to have black people as slaves and whatnot. So, because they was able to tell them, look, y'all not the same as they are, this, that, and the third. And a lot of Indians rolled with that. The Indians didn't help black people and whatnot. They enslaved black people. Like I said, the same way when they came over here across the Bering Straits and they saw the Olmec, our people, the Mende people here, they aided in trying to wipe our people out as well. They don't talk about that, though. They don't talk about that. They took our land, and then the white man turned around and took it from them.
Very true. And it's another thing, man. I'm gonna just say it like this: we prisoners of war. And the reason why I say that, man, is because a slave, also known as a servant, it's like you said, man. It's like the servants are the ones that came over here. They owe somebody some money. You work for them for a particular amount of years, and then they set you free.
Mm-hmm.
For the simple fact that we've been in captivity for generation after generation after generation means that we don't fall under the definition of a slave or a servant. Now, they could call us slaves, but it don't matter of the label. It's the content of what's actually going on. And the only other thing that we could be is prisoners of war. Because when they came over here to these shores, we didn't owe them nothing. And when somebody starts attacking you when you don't owe them nothing, that's called a war. And anybody captured in the war is a prisoner of war.
Exactly.
I agree with that. The only way of getting out of being a prisoner of war is if you traded soldier for soldier, you escape, or you win the war, or you rescued. We have been none of that. So we have not been removed of the label of prisoner of war. You could go to General Orders 100, which is known as the Lieber Code. That would explain every fucked up situation that we have been through, from Trayvon Martin, Emmett Till, Sandra Bland. Anything done in war is not punishable by the enemy. There are no murder charges when you in a war.
Exactly.
It's just not how it is. And that is our current status right now. The reason why they want people to think that they slaves and they have some freedom and some reparations is to keep them from knowing that they soldiers. Because if you have the mindset of a soldier, you're not begging. You're not protesting. You're not trying to sue them. You're not going complaining about nothing. You're going to soldier the fuck up, and you're going to get together with your people and do what it takes to gain your own freedom.
Exactly. I agree with you on that. I agree.
You know, but long as they trying to attach themselves to these bullshit groups and stuff, man. Like, I get what the brother's saying about black means pale and all of that stuff, man. But if you look, the conscious community, these dudes call themselves doctors, professors, and scholars. I looked at Sister Yaffa's video. I bought the 1828 and looked right there where it said black means pale. Now, if these doctors and these scholars and these professors, if this is what they are, it's only one or two explanations why they're not telling you that you're not black and white. One, they are not doctors, scholars, and professors, which means they're lying. Or number two, they do know what black means, and they're not telling you, which means that they're getting paid by somebody to lie to you.
Of course.
Clearly.
Of course. That's why these guys are going to keep teaching red, black, and green. You come from Africa, Pan-Africanism, Moorish science, and all this other nonsense. They're going to keep teaching this garbage. They're going to keep teaching red, black, and green. They're pushing this more and more. People can't see that this is being pushed and sponsored. When you see Beyonce walking in the NFL thing with the football game, when she go with the Black Panthers and the Black Revolution thing, when you start seeing that on for millions of people after during the commercial break, whenever the football game is on, you know these people, the elites, they got control of Pan-Africanism. They got control of the red, black, and green. You starting to see these guys putting out red, black, and green sneakers and stuff. Who's manufacturing this crap?
Yeah, let me kill off them new groups. The Nation of Islam took a donation from a Caucasian. And when somebody donate money to you, they can tell you what to do with that particular money that they donate to you. And if you don't, they have a claim against you, which means they could come in and take over your organization. The NAACP board of directors are Jews.
Of course. Well, that's who started. That's who started the NAACP. That's who started the NAACP.
You know what I'm saying? They may put somebody who look carbon rich as a president or a CEO. The true owners of the board of directors. Those are the ones that direct the executive staff to do what they tell them to do.
Well, that's the same thing as the Black Lives Matter thing. They put them three lesbians out in front, but you know it's George Soros' money. You know Black Lives Matter is controlled by white people.
Yeah, they got sold out too. That's all.
Well, they was founded by the white man. all them black
I
groups.
respect you. I respect your organization, bro. Because from what I hear, you don't take no outside donations. It's like you got to be a member to put your money in this. You're not taking no outside influences, man. A lot of these other people are taking money from the outside and they getting usurped because of it. Because they don't want to create nothing by them, for them, and only them. This is why Black Wall Street got burned down. And anytime these niggas try to create anything that got anything to do with these furry animals, it's done with. The animals only attack what they know about. You ain't got to tell them your business. Y'all stop putting y'all children on Facebook and these social media pages. As soon as you let them know that you got them, they coming to get them.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It's so simple, brother. It's so simple, man. It's just so. The more I get rid of the lies, the more truth I see, and the more I get rid of the lies, the more lies I see causing our people pain, man. But you know what? It's not the truth that's hurting them. It's them holding on to the lies that's hurting them. They run from it. They scared of it, man. You know what I'm saying? When I leave my house, I put on a nigga uniform. But when I get my ass back in the house, I take it off. You know what I'm saying? These people go from outside, from going to war with these idiots, with these animals, to coming in their house and acting just like animals.
Exactly. This is like I said. You know, it's one thing to know to believe that you a slave. It's another thing to, like I said, like you saying, no, you really actually a prisoner of war. These people still believe they slaves and that, you know, they deserve some reparations that they entitled to and this, that, and the third. No, it's not that.
I know, man. They think that they could beg their way out of it, cry their way out of it, and all it's doing is getting them
buy their way out of it, too. That's their favorite thing.
I know,
we
right?
get enough money, if we get enough money, you know, or, you know, we could sell drugs in the black neighborhood and then get enough money after 20 years and we're going to start a black power revolution army. I ain't going to tell you said that.
That's not going to happen. These niggas too scared to put a seed in the dirt and grow their own food, brother. They too scared to do that. They too scared to find out who they are and how to adjust their life and live it correctly. We've been changed already. Ain't no point in changing nothing. We need to be corrected.
Yeah. Well, you Negroes don't want correction, brother. They don't want correction. They think correction gonna come by way of the white man. That's really what they believe. Money. See, when they say money, when they say education, when they say black power revolution, they really mean, or they say politics and all this other stuff, they really mean the white man. That's what they mean.
Oh yeah, like the Black Panthers, you know. They stopped what they was doing as soon as they got let into political office.
Of course, that's what they always wanted.
All the Caucasians had to do was hand them something, and they turned on each other.
Yeah, well, they got what they wanted. You know, hey, it is what it is. They got what they ultimately was looking for. I mean, they wanted acceptance. They want equality. They want to be equal with the white man. They want in. They want a seat at the table to make some decisions. You know, like certain people said. You know. But listen, brother. Listen, I'm gonna play a little bit of music. Take a little break. Thank you for calling in. Thank you.
No problem. Peace.
All right. Peace. All right. We're gonna play a little bit of music. We'll be right back. The Army helmet. The football helmet was influenced by the Olmec people. Notice football is a warrior-style game. Military, of course, deals with war. So who was the people that was wearing the first military or army-style helmets? Our people, the Olmecs, the Mende people. The white man knew about those Olmec heads. They telling you they discovered. They been knew about that. They been knew about those cities and whatnot. They knew about those. You got straight up Olmec statues. And like I said, this is how you know that the ancient Olmecs are like on this side, the ancient, like the ancient Egyptians on this side of the world. This is how you know it's the same people. You look at how they built. You look at the edifices and things they built, how high they built them, the statues and whatnot. They're known to be builders. That's our people. That's our people. Our people were captured in this country when the white man came here, and they were put into slavery. They would capture our people, the ones who got caught in certain areas and got put into slavery. We were already over here. Black people were kidnapped, from certain areas and brought into slavery. They brought some Africans here. Yeah, that's true, but very few. Very few. The so-called black people that was in slavery was black people that were kidnapped or people that was already living in the South, and when the whites came down there, they took them at gunpoint and put them in slavery. Those are Olmecs. Those are Mende people that they took and put in slavery. Like the brother said, prisoners of war. Even your so-called Israelites say that. Even your Israelites say they don't even know what the hell they say. They be like, yeah, when they raped the black woman, the white man was raping the black woman, that was considered booty, or what they call, when they take somebody in a prisoner of war, when somebody takes your woman in prisoner of war, because you have those Olmecs, those descendants of those children, they was fighting back. They was fighting back. Because it was in them to fight back. A lot of them was Mende people. A lot of them was the Olmec and the Mende people and whatnot. A lot of them fought back. There was a lot of slave uprisings they just don't talk about because they don't ever want you to think that you're supposed to fight the white man back, that you're supposed to just eat his crap. Like they teach you. That's why they put these slave movies out where you got a bunch of docile slaves that's okay with serving the white man. And you got a lot of so-called black people, the Mende and the Olmec people, the Folsom people, who was known for fighting, known for killing, known for constantly fighting, and they don't want you seeing that. That's why they were so hard on the Nat Turner thing. That's why they were so hard on that. They don't want you seeing that. They don't ever want you to think you're supposed to raise your hand to Caucasians to fight back if they try to attack you. They don't want you to think that. They don't want you to fight. They don't want you to ever think. If you do a lot more of the history, you'll see it was way more slave rebellions than that, because these people were the descendants of the Mende people. They were descendants of the Mende people. When a lot of these people ran away, they knew where to go because they were already native to America. They knew where to go. The ones who stayed in slavery, a lot of them people stayed in slavery because they felt like, we used to the system, we don't know where to go. They got lazy. But the ones who knew the areas and things like that, who got kidnapped from other areas, they ran away off the plantation. People was running away from the plantation all the time. People ran off the plantation. They wanted to make you think that didn't happen a lot. It happened a lot. It happened a lot. You had uprisings, people kill the whole plantation. As I said, when they were talking about them people, the Mende, the Folsom people down in Florida, the Folsom people down there in Florida, and all the way down they wouldn't end up going to Mexico and all. They were already going back and forth into those areas because, again, they are descendants of the Mende people, the Olmecs. The Olmecs are the first settlers. Our people are the first settlers of what you call Mexico today. Our people are the first settlers of Mexico. Our people were the first settlers of Mexico, South America, and America. You understand that? Our people settled those areas first. But they don't want to tell you that, though, because it don't go along with the slave story. It don't go along with the slave story. It don't go along with we brought you over here because y'all was swinging in trees and y'all didn't know nothing, and we just educated you and gave you our names and whatnot. No, they gave you names once they took you and kidnapped you from different parts of America. That's how you went into slavery. They was kidnapping people who was already here in America and taking them down south. That's why when they showed you that movie, 12 Years a Slave, Solomon Northup, the guy Solomon Northup was free already. He was free, and he had his freedom papers because the free so-called blacks who was born free here in America, they had to get issued papers in their areas to show that they were free, just in case people, wouldn't think they were slaves, because they was bringing the Africans over here. Some of the Africans they brought over here, they had them as slaves, and they already differentiated that the people that was born here in America, the so-called blacks that was born here in America, they wouldn't be enslaved. But then you had them white people down south who didn't give a damn. They would just take so-called black people. They didn't care if they was from Africa or from America, and they would just go ahead and tear up their freedom papers and whatnot and change their name. That's how you got your slave names. They was kidnapping you from America and taking you down south. That's all. That's how they did that. They didn't take you from no damn Africa. You seriously believe they brought 100 million black people over here into this country? Or we sailed over here. We was coming from the Middle East and things like that. We was sailing over here over time and setting up shop over here in America. Before the white man. before the so-called Asians who mixed in with us and became so-called Native Americans, who are now not your people, because when the white man got with them, he mixed in with them. That's why you'll see a lot of white people claiming that they got Indian descent, and you'll see a lot of these so-called Indian Native American tribal leaders. They look like white boys. They look like white men. Why you don't see none of these tribal native? Ask yourself this question, since you Negroes think you Indian so much. Why you don't see any of these tribal leaders that look like black men? If y'all got so much Indian in y'all and whatnot, and you saying that they're your people, why you don't never see none of these no tribal leaders that look like black men? Why you don't see that? Answer: because they know that the terminology of Indian was set for those people, those Asiatic or those Asian people who are linked to the Caucasian people. It's the same people. That's why the white man had no problem mixing in with them. He had no problem mixing in with them. The guy, I forget what his name is, who had the woman Pocahontas, John Clark, I think his name, John Lewis or whatever his name was. He took Pocahontas and took her all the way back to England. She married the white man, went all the way back to England. She was an Indian princess. So-called Indian princess, took her back to England, right? She mixed her seed. She became somebody over there. I forget what she became over there in England, but they always had a relationship with the so-called Indians. It was never really personal with them. They just wanted their land. They wanted their land. You understand? And certain tribal Indians, they would help the white man fight off other tribal Indians. So some of them tribal Indians was cool with the white man. They was okay with them. And this is why today you see where the white man will give them money for casinos, leave them alone on certain lands and things like that. Why they don't do that with you? If y'all believe you so-called Indians, you link back to these people. Why they ain't going to do it to you? I'm going to say it just like this. The so-called Indians got what they deserve, because that is for them having you in slavery. That is for when they came over here and started fighting our people and taking our land as the Mende and the Olmec people. You understand that? They come up and they just desert because they turned on our people. A lot of our people, we not making the connection between the Mende and the Olmec people. We not making that connection. A lot of our people refuse to do that. You rather either be a damn African and believe you came over here in slavery, or you want to believe that you are a so-called Indian. When the so-called Indians ain't did nothing but take a lot of your customs and traditions. Like I said, the bow and the arrow, the feathers in the head, that came from the Olmec people. That came from them. It didn't come from no Indians. There's no such thing as no Indians. There's no such thing as Indians. They got that name from the white man, Christopher Columbus, who thought he landed in India amongst the Hindus. Because by the time he saw those people, them, they looked like Hindus. They had the straight hair and the dark skin. That's why he thought he was in India, because he thought he was amongst Hindus. Because they've been to India before. They've been there before. And they also said they saw our people here. They saw our people. Some of our people was living amongst the Indians, and some of our people was living off separate from the Indians. But those are the descendants of the Olmec and the Mende people. All of the pyramids and things that you see in South America, in Mexico, those Olmec heads, that's our ancestors. That's our American ancestors. That's our ancient American Nubian ancestors. That's our people. That's our people. It's all the same people. The ancient Kemites, the ancient Nubians, the Olmecs, the Mende, it's all the same people. That's our descendants. We are the Native Americans here. We didn't come by way of no damn slave ships. We didn't come by way of no slave ships. We was already here in America. Wouldn't it be easier, think about it, wouldn't it be easier to just take people who are already here in America and kidnap them and take them to another part of America rather than go all the way across the damn sea and take 6 or 7 months to bring people back? Wouldn't it just be easier to kidnap people who are already here? Think about it. It would be easier just to kidnap people that's already here. You understand? And they used to get those people. They used to get those people give money to these Caucasians who would go out here, and they was just straight up kidnappers. They would come up north, and they would kidnap black people, men, women, kidnap them, and take them back down south as slaves and sell them. Change their names and everything. They would kidnap these people. That's how your slave system got set up. It's a form of kidnapping. But y'all want to buy into the story of, oh, our people came over here locked in chains, 100 million of our people came here locked in chains. I didn't say there was no slave transportation, but it was very small. Very small. Very small. They didn't have the ships like that to transport that many people here. They didn't have it. You understand? And they always talked about how many people they would lose on those ships and whatnot. So after a while, it didn't make sense to keep bringing people over here. It didn't make sense because you was losing people in the voyage. So how do you get to 100 million people? How do you get to 100 million people? And then you got to train these people to work. And then you got a bunch of illiterate people who, like I said, who coming over here, your Irish, and those people coming over here, they illiterate as hell, or they don't know how to do nothing. So you had to get people who were already skilled and knew what to do. What would be more feasible? You would get people that are already here who got houses, who know how to build stuff, who have some sort of skill that they learned themselves or taught themselves, who are already on this side. You go and get so-called Africans. There's already a language barrier. You got to teach them how to speak English. You got to teach them how to speak English. The so-called blacks that were already the men, they already knew how to speak this language, the English language, because they was around white people before. They was around white people. They learned how to speak English. That's why they got them. The African, you got to teach them how to speak. You got to teach them, a whole generation of people, how to speak English. You understand that? How you going to get work out of people who can't do that? You can whip them all you want to. If they don't understand you, how you going to get work out of them? But like I said, our people believe everything and anything. They believe every and anything. A lot of times they would use the so-called Indians to help trap your people too. They would do them as well. They would use the so-called Indians to go kidnap your people too. There was a lot of work for kidnappers. Anybody could kidnap and bring slaves to plantations for sale. They would give them money for that. But they don't want to talk about that, and your government turned a blind eye to it, kidnapping. And then when they was also doing it to white people too. They would kidnap white people too. That's why they come up with the thing white slavery. They call it white slavery. They was kidnapping white people too, and putting them in, making them indentured servants. They would kidnap them too. Maybe not on the level as so-called as the level as so-called black, but a lot of times when they would do that, they didn't have the capacity to separate the whites from the blacks, and they didn't want them interbreeding or mixing, so they stopped really kidnapping whites like that. But they did that in the beginning. They would kidnap white people too. They didn't give a damn. Whoever they could kidnap and force to work. We got to be real with this, man. We got to be real with this. We got to know who we really are. We got to know who we really are. Because our people don't got a clue, man. Our people have no clue at all. Stop looking at Africa. Stop looking at the Pan-African. Stop with the red, black, and green and whatnot. Because that in itself is nothing but confusion. Because none of these people can tell you where exactly they come from in Africa. None of them. And if you say, oh, my people over there from this part of Africa, my people over there from this part of Africa, so what? That don't mean anything because you can be from any place. You could find some people. You got black people that was in damn Italy, in Sicily. You got black people who was over there through the Moors. Now, if they trace your bloodline back to there, does that mean you Sicilian or Italian? No. So wherever your family is at the time don't mean, or whatever they chose to sojourn at the time, don't mean that they are native to those places. Don't mean that they native to those places. They came from someplace else. And America is a place where everybody came from someplace else. We came from the east into America first. And with that, we're going to play a little bit of music. We'll be right back. Something. You never ask yourself why, when you see all these guys, these Pan-African guys, loading up on taking people to Egypt, right? They're always going to Egypt. They're always taking you. You know, these certain people are doing these tours every year where they're taking our people over to Egypt. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. They take our people over to Egypt to see the pyramids and the ruins and things like that. But why don't you ever take them to South America, Mexico? Why don't you ever claim that part of our heritage? Why don't they ever do that? Why do they never claim the Olmecs, right? The Mende people, the ones who were, I refer to them as the American pharaohs. I refer to them as the American pharaohs, the Olmecs. They got started, and I'm gonna say it just like this. I really think that idea for Mount Rushmore not only came from the pharaohs in Egypt, from Abu Simbel, but I believe it came from, I think it came from over here as well when they saw the Olmec heads. They saw the Olmec heads over here, so they got inspired by that as well. They wanted edifices, and they got inspired by the Olmec heads. And it said the white man definitely got inspired by the Olmec heads. And that in the game of basketball, where they say it came from the Mayans, because the original Mayans and all those people are the Olmecs. When the straight black the people, the black Saint African thing, when they showing black people in Hawaii and certain islands and whatnot, those are all descendants of the Olmecs. All of those are descendants of the Olmecs. When you see those people on those islands in certain places, in American territories and things like that, in the Fiji Island, all them stuff like all them islands, that's all Olmec people, man. That's all descendants of the Olmecs. You can look at the people and tell. They have that, what they consider to be so-called Indian culture, but it's not. That's ancient Olmec Nubian culture. Like I said, from the feathers to the bows and arrows, that's all the ancient. That's all the Olmecs. All you gotta do is Google that, the Olmecs and the Nubians. You'll see the ancient Olmecs and Nubians and things like that. You'll see the ancient Nubians. They had the bows and the arrows, the feathers in their head and whatnot. But like I said, my question is, why don't you ever hear the conscious community? Why don't you ever hear these black Power Rangers? You never hear the pro-black, Pan-African people ever talk about the Olmecs and the Mende people, nor do they ever talk about this is our heritage and our history and this, that, and the third. Why don't they ever do that? Why don't they ever do that? The Mende people, the Olmecs, they built on the same level as the ancient Egyptians. They had the edifices and things like this. They had all of those buildings and things like that. They had a lot of stuff. But you allow the Mexicans to have that heritage. You allow a lot of people, allow the Mexicans to have that heritage. I would hope that what you call them, the Afro-Mexicans, the Afro-Mexicanos, or the so-called black Mexicans, the Nubian Mexicans, I refer to them, would know that they are linked to the Olmecs and the Mende people. I would hope they know that. If we got a few listeners in there, if we got any of our brothers and sisters who are of Latino descent, make it your business to tell your Latino brothers and sisters, the black ones, that you are of the Olmec Nubian tribes. You are of the Olmec Nubian tribes. The word Mexico comes from the word Olmec. Comes from them. Right? The rubber people. The Mende, that's the Mende people. You understand that? That's the Mende people. They were all over North America and South America. They were everywhere. And that's how the majority of black people got into those areas from those people. That's how the majority of black people got into those areas. They didn't come by way of no slavery. I'm not saying none of them did, but like I said, a lot of them came here because they were descendants of those people. Those people, wherever so-called black people go, and we got women, we're gonna leave kids all over the damn place. That ain't changed. Negroes love to screw. They gonna leave kids everywhere. Mm-hmm. And this is, like I said, you looking at when the people from the pointing at those people from those different islands, those are the descendants of the Olmecs on those islands. Those are Olmec descendants. Right? We need to make that link. Our people need to make that link because, like I said, it's easy to know that we're not African because the Africans, like I said in my previous broadcast, they don't travel nowhere. Africans don't go nowhere. The Africans, the tribal Africans don't go nowhere. They stay in they one little areas. They live and die in their little areas. And they have their little mud huts and tents, and they into their little tribals and painting themselves up. They don't go nowhere. The Nubians, they travel. Our people travel. We don't think nothing about breaking camp and going someplace else. The Nubians, our people travel all over the place. That's the trait of our people. We travelers. In fact, the so-called Masonic temple, when they get this whole thing of the traveling man, they got that from our people with the traveling man. That whole traveling man came from our people. because we were the first travelers to travel all over the damn planet. That's why you see us everywhere. You see us in China. You see us in Russia. You see us in England. You see us in early England. You see us in Sicily, Rome, all them places. Our people were all over the damn place, man. Early America. Our people were everywhere. That's why I said the whole planet belonged to our people. Y'all with this African nonsense, I said the whole planet belonged to our people. The whole planet, we indigenous to the whole damn planet. Everything. Earth is our homeland. Now that since we set foot on Earth, Earth is our home. And it was created for us. And these people who are not of us were created to serve us. But I guess y'all forgot that. Y'all forgot your supremacy and fell into this mind state of equality and wanting to be equal with everybody else. Now you under everybody else. You forgot that. You forgot that the whole planet belonged to you. What did Elijah Muhammad said? The whole planet belonged to us. That's why he didn't get with that whole African thing. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't get with that whole African thing because he's like the whole planet belonged to us. He said every square inch and mile of the earth belongs to us. We were the first ones here. Before everybody was even thought of on this planet, we was here. We was in all these different areas. We wasn't sitting in no damn Africa, swinging in no trees, waiting for the white man to come get us and bring us to America. And you guys that teach this nonsense, you Pan-Africans that teach this nonsense, y'all really need to stop it, man. You red, black, and green guys, y'all really need to stop it, man. You black Power Rangers, you really need to stop this bullshit, man. I'm going to just call it like that. It's bullshit. This Pan-African thing, and we only come from one planet on one part of the planet, and we only come from Africa. It's a load of bullshit, man, that you got from the white man. You got that from the white man. Just like you got Indian from the white man. African, Indian, Moor, Negro. Y'all need to really stop it, man. Stop it. Teach your babies about the Olmecs and the Mende people, man. Learn about them. Take a trip to Mexico, South America. See the ruins there if you're going to go anywhere before you run over to Egypt. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going to Egypt, but go there first. You want to see your people. You want to see those big, hip, big behind so-called black women where you come from. There they go, right there. There they go. You'll probably find they ain't gonna tell you that when you do that what is it when you trace your bloodline back to the DNA thing, the ancestral DNA thing? They should tell you. They should go and look in Mexico for your people. Go see what they'll find in South America and Mexico. I bet you a lot of you'll find DNA and all that with those people, those so-called black people in Mexico, South America. You'll find a link to those people. You'll find a link to those people. You'll find links to people in the East. But see, they're not going to tell you all that. They're not going to tell you all that. That's a whole part of history that these Pan-Africanists conveniently leave out. They conveniently leave. Well, they can tell you everything about each ancient pharaoh, what dynasty was who, and who was in this dynasty. But you mean to tell me they're not going to tell you nothing about? Is nothing on the Olmecs? The only one that brought that out was Ivan van Sertima. He's the only one that brought that out about the Olmecs. All these guys talking about Egypt and Africa and whatnot because they in love with Egypt. They want to be. They was trained by Egyptologists, white men. So they are in love with Egypt. They gonna turn their nose up to anything else. They gonna turn their nose up to anything else. You see the descendants of the Olmecs here. I'm a descendant of the Olmecs. Muhammad Ali. I seen faces of them on them statues look like Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier. You could tell why Serena, Venus and Serena. You understand? You could tell by, and the reason I'm saying that because you could tell these are people with warrior-looking faces. They're warriors. They're warriors. Those helmets on and things like that, those are fighting people. Those are warriors. You understand that? Those are warriors. Jim Brown, all them people like that, those are warrior people. Those are straight killers. Okay? And it was a lot of so-called black people, they didn't bother. They left them alone because they know they would kill them without even thinking about it. Unlike a lot of you Negroes who mix down with all these other different races of people now, and you want equality and you love the beast and whatnot. Y'all ain't built like that. Y'all ain't built like Pan-African Negroes who love the white man. You know, yet you claim you so pro-black. You so pro-black. You so pro-black, but you still wearing the white man's names. You still walking around talking about your education you got from the white man, your academic accreditations and your credentials, but you so pro-black though, right? Right. You still think you come from one part of the damn planet called Africa, yet you never point to exactly where you come from. You just point to a continent and say, I'm African. But that's not telling nobody nothing. You know how many different countries in Africa? That's not telling nobody nothing to say that you African. But see, a lot of these guys, they part of the confusion. The white man throws out this confusion by calling you African. How the hell you gonna be? How the hell you gonna call yourself or say that you are linked to a continent and not a country within the continent? How do you do that? If you in a continent somewhere, you're gonna at least point to a country in which where you come from. You're going to at least do that. You're going to point to a country that you come from on that continent. But y'all the only backwards people who go, I'm African. I come from the continent. I don't know where on the continent, but I come from the continent. Why? Because the white man said so. He said you come from Africa. And that's all you come from. That's it. And y'all buy into this. This should be a cautionary tale for our people. Like I said, we cannot afford to get sucked into this nonsense that we went from African, now we're talking about we Indians now. I said it would have been more in alignment to say that you Nubians. You ain't going to, as far as you looking for something, that's that old coon Negro mentality. You always looking for, well, if we call ourselves this, then we ain't going to get no money from the white man if we go into this classification. Or look, whether you call yourself Indians or whatever, the white man ain't giving you no money. When you Negroes going to wake up? Well, I don't care how much Moorish you Moorish American, and they're not giving you nothing. So you might as well go ahead and just be Nubians. At least one thing you'll have is a peace of mind. You'll have some form of freedom that you done took on a name that you got to choose, as opposed to being an African, a Moor, a Negro, whatever the hell they calling you, an African. At least you could have the mindsets. That what. That was my people. My people was called Nuba people, and Nuban people, and Nuba, and they were from this area, so the Nubian thing kind of lines up and whatnot. At least you can have that, because you ain't got nothing now. Y'all grasping at straws now. Everybody now Indians the new thing. We Indians, a term from the white man, another slave title from some damn devil Christopher Columbus who came and thought he was in India somewhere. You want to call yourself after the mindset, after the name of a man who basically made a blunder and thought that he was in India somewhere. And he said, oh, you guys are Indians. You guys are Indians. They look like Indians. They got that same brown tone and straight hair like the Indians. So they're Indians. And y'all want to run behind them and be Indians too. Go look at that documentary, Red Masters, Black Slaves, on YouTube. Red Masters, Black Slaves. Look that documentary up. Red Masters, Black Slaves, since you want to be Indian so much. Let me go ahead and read these questions before we get out of here. Who are the real founding fathers and Native Americans? The Olmecs. Those big head statues with the helmets on, the Olmecs. Those are your founding fathers. Those are the first Americans, the real Native Americans. Before the Asians came over here from across the Bering Straits and mixed their seed with our people that was over here and helped to kill off and wipe a lot of our people out, and took a lot of their culture with them. Like I said, this is where your teepees, them big teepees, they were setting up the totem poles, the feathers in the head, the bows and arrows. That came from the Olmecs. That's stolen culture. That's straight up stolen culture. That's Nubian culture. That ain't got nothing to do with no damn Indians. That's Nubian culture. Are black people American Indians? No, they are not. No, we are not. American Indians is a terminology that was created by the white man. And he was calling those so-called Asians, those Asiatic people who are not our people, Native American Indians. That's a terminology that was made up by the white man, just like African American and African and Moor and Negro. Are they American Indians? No, we're not. We're not. We are those Nubian Olmec people, the Mende people. That's our descendants. Those are the first Americans. Who are the so-called Indians, and where did they really come from before they got here to America? They're Asians. They're Chinese. Look at the old pictures of the so-called Native Americans. Look at old pictures of the Native Americans. Look at their eyes. They got chinky eyes. They got slanted eyes. They're Asians, and they crossed the Bering Straits with a man named Hu Shen in the fourth century. In the 4th century, they crossed the Bering Straits with a man named Hu Shen, and they mixed in with our people over here. This is where out of that mixing or that intermingling is where the Mexicans came from. That's where the so-called Indians came from. All on this side. That's where those people came from. The mixing of the Asian and black, so-called black people, the Mende or the Olmec people, and those people, those Asians. That's where your so-called Indians come from. That's where your so-called Mexicans come from. They got our blood in them, just like everybody got our blood in them, but they don't mean they are people. Does not mean that. They don't identify you as their people. They don't acknowledge you as their people. So you know what? You're not their people. We're not your people. You understand that? They sure ain't going to be your people when it comes time to give up some of that reservation land or some of that casino money. They damn sure ain't your people in. They'll let you know that. And they did let them, you Negroes know that when they kicked you off the reservation, when George Bush gave them that $16 million. Go look back at that story when George Bush Jr. was the president. He gave them so-called Indians $16 million, and they kicked all the black people off the damn reservation who was living there. Told them they wasn't no Indians. They was living there for years. All right? Who are the Olmec Mende people? Those are people who come from the same origin as the ancient Kemites, the ancient Nubians and whatnot, who traveled over here into the Americas way before, and they've been in America, in the Americas, South Americas, for over 16,000 years. Dr. Claude Anderson was referencing them when he was referring to the Ʞᴜ people. That's the Mende and the Olmec people, man. They was in Florida, Mexico. They were in places where there was a lot of warm climate. They went into the cold areas too sometimes, but they were in a lot of the warm climates like Miami, Florida, and all them places like that. Mexico, they were in the warm areas. Tropical people. Are the Mexicans descendants of the Olmecs? No, they are not. No, they are not. We are the descendants of the Olmec people, even though they're trying to claim that. They're trying to claim that now because they know that the Olmecs was government and society builders. So everybody wants to claim our societies, our ancient societies and ancient governments. That go for the white man who want Egypt. That go for the Mexicans who want the Mesoamerica and the Olmec Empire and the Mende empires. Everybody's taking pieces of our heritage, man. And y'all sitting by here letting it happen. A lot of y'all sitting by here letting that happen. A lot of y'all want to ride with this Indian thing. You want to ride with this Pan-African thing, wasting time, man. And you throwing away culture. You throwing away real heritage. Why is this lie perpetuated about the so-called Indians being Native Americans? Because, like I said, the so-called Native Americans and the white man, the Caucasians, they damn near the same people now. Because the white men have mixed them down together so much they like the same people now. You look at a lot of how the first Indians look that was mixing with our people. You see the dark skin they had looking like our people. Then you look at the so-called Native Americans today. They look like white men, man. They look whiter and whiter. Because the white man mixed in with them. Same way he tried to mix in with our people through the black woman, which is why you got a lot of these mulattoes now. They did the same thing with them. And they don't acknowledge that they're your people. Who are the descendants of the real Native Americans? We are. We are the descendants of the Olmec Mende people, the Ʞᴜ people, the real Nubians. We are. You so-called black men and so-called black women here in America, you are not African. You are not Indian. You are Nubian Olmec people. You are descendants of the Nubian Olmec people. Look them up. The people wearing those helmets and those crowns, that's a warrior people. And that's it. This video will be on YouTube tomorrow. And go and support Mentellect Films. Support Mentellect Films. We raising money for a film project I'm trying to get done. I'm trying to start a motion picture company. I'm going to start a motion picture company, whether y'all support or not. But be part of this, because just like you like the videos on YouTube, we're going to turn them. We're going to take it a step further and turn things into motion pictures. So everything's a start. I am the intellectual Nuben ꜰᴜᴜ. This has been Mentellect Radio. Good night.
It's the Republic of Mentellect, rising out the black race to the white race, out the black race to the white race. It's the Republic of Mentellect, black race to the white race. If it's hell, and then it's hell us. They tried everything just to spell us. Fed us religion, gave us fake gods. Through all of that, we beat the odds. Now we coming together under one flag. Colors red, gold, and blue. Superman, Superwoman, that's me and you. The infinite capabilities that